A furious customer demanded I break store policy and accept his expired coupon, screaming, "It doesn't expire for me, I'm a regular." When I refused, he grabbed a stack of items and threw them on the floor, shouting, "I'll destroy this place." My manager nervously said, "Just give him the discount." I pulled up the store footage and said, "Then let's show this to the police first." I work at a large retail store in Houston, Texas. It's one of those places where you can find almost anything: electronics, clothes, groceries. I've been here for a few years, and while most customers are pleasant, there are always a few who make the job challenging. One Tuesday afternoon, the store was quiet. I was at the customer service desk, organizing some paperwork, when I noticed a man approaching. He looked to be in his late 50s, wearing a wrinkled polo shirt and khaki pants. His face was flushed, and he had a determined stride that suggested he was upset. He reached the counter and, without any greeting, slapped a crumpled piece of paper onto it. "This coupon isn't scanning. Fix it," he demanded. I picked up the coupon and examined it. It was for 20% off a purchase but had expired 2 months ago. "I'm sorry, sir," I said, handing it back to him. "This coupon expired back in March." His eyes narrowed as he snatched the coupon from my hand. "It doesn't expire for me. I'm a regular here. They always honor my coupons." I had encountered similar situations before. Some customers believed that being a frequent shopper meant the rules didn't apply to them. I remained calm and replied, "I understand, sir, but our policy is clear. We can't accept expired coupons." His face turned a deeper shade of red. "This is ridiculous. I shop here all the time. You're going to deny me a measly 20%? I apologize, but I can't override the system. The register won't accept an expired coupon." He leaned in closer, and I could smell the stale coffee on his breath. "Listen here, missy. I spend thousands in this store. If you don't honor this coupon, I'll make sure you regret it." Before I could respond, he grabbed a nearby display of neatly stacked canned goods and shoved it to the floor. The metallic clang echoed through the store, and a few customers turned to look. "I'll destroy this place," he shouted, knocking over a rack of magazines for good measure. My heart was pounding, but I stood my ground. "Sir, please calm down. There's no need for this." A few feet away, my manager, Tom, had witnessed the commotion and hurried over. Tom was a wiry man in his early 40s, always nervous and eager to please. "What's going on here?" Tom asked, glancing between the irate customer and the mess on the floor. "This employee is refusing to honor my coupon," the man bellowed, pointing an accusatory finger at me. Tom's eyes darted to the scattered merchandise, then back to the customer. "Sir, let's not make a scene. We can work something out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Tom, the coupon is expired. It's against policy to accept it." Tom gave me a pleading look. "Just give him the discount. It's not worth the trouble." I felt a surge of frustration. "Tom, he's vandalizing the store. We can't reward this behavior." The customer smirked, sensing victory. "Yeah, listen to your boss. Give me my discount." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Sir, I understand you're upset, but I can't process this coupon. And given your actions, I believe it's best if you leave the store now." His smirk vanished. "Excuse me? You're kicking me out?" "Yes, I am. And if you refuse, I'll have to involve the authorities." Tom's eyes widened. "Let's not escalate things." But I was done backing down. I reached under the counter and pulled out my phone. "Sir, we have security cameras that have recorded your behavior. I can show this footage to the police." The man's bravado faltered. He glanced around, noticing the attention he was drawing. Without another word, he turned on his heel and stormed out of the store, leaving a trail of chaos in his wake. Tom sighed, rubbing his temples. "You handled that, firmly." I met his gaze. "Tom, we can't let customers bully us into breaking policy. It sets a bad precedent." He nodded slowly. "You're right. I'll file a report and forward the footage to corporate." As I cleaned up the mess, a few customers offered words of support, which helped ease the tension. It wasn't the first time I dealt with an unruly customer, and it wouldn't be the last. But standing my ground that day reminded me of the importance of upholding the rules, even in the face of intimidation. The next morning, I came in early to help with inventory. I wasn't thinking about the guy from yesterday. Customers like him throw tantrums all the time. I figured it was over. By noon, we had more people than usual in the store. My coworker Melissa, who works at the front register, waved me over. "You won't believe this," she said. "That guy from yesterday? He came back earlier asking for you. He was yelling your name at the service desk." I froze. "Did he do anything?" "No," she said. "Just loud and rude. Said you embarrassed him? Said you cost him respect? That was weird." I asked if he left, and she nodded. "Yeah, security asked him to leave after he started threatening to make a complaint to corporate." So now I knew it wasn't over. After my shift, Tom pulled me into the office. He looked uncomfortable. "There's been a complaint. From that man." "Of course," I said. "What did he say?" Tom cleared his throat and looked at his monitor. "He's claiming you harassed him, denied service without reason, and intentionally embarrassed him in front of other customers. He used words like hostile and aggressive." I stared at Tom. "You saw what happened?" "I did," he said quickly. "And the footage backs you up." But corporate has to follow up because of the language in his complaint. He also said he's posting online and involving a lawyer. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So he trashes the store and now I'm under review?" "It's just protocol," Tom said, raising his hands. "I've already sent the video to HR. Just hang tight." The next few days were tense. I noticed two men in plain clothes walking the floor and glancing at me. Loss prevention. They said they were just observing, but I knew why they were there. The guy had escalated things. Maybe he didn't want a discount anymore. Maybe now it was about revenge. Then things got worse. On Friday night, I found my car keyed in the employee lot. Deep, angry scratches along the driver's side. It was the same side the security cameras don't catch because the pole-mounted camera had been out for weeks. I told Tom. He looked sick. "You think it was him?" I nodded. "I don't have enemies." And he said he'd make me regret it. We filed a police report, but without footage, there wasn't much they could do. They said they'd make a note, but unless he came back and did something they could catch him for, nothing would happen. Saturday, someone called the store and asked for me directly. I answered, assuming it was a normal customer issue. "I saw your face on that video," the voice said. "You like ruining people's lives? You don't know who you're messing with." Then they hung up. The number was blocked. I went straight to Tom. He looked pale and called corporate security. By Monday, the company sent a legal rep to talk to me. They were calm, but serious. "We believe you're being harassed. We're increasing store security for the next week. You won't work alone at the counter. We're also going to restrict your name from store call transfers." I appreciated it, but I was rattled. A man had tried to bully me into giving him a discount, and when that didn't work, he was trying to ruin my life. He was using the complaint system, social media, threats, and maybe even damaging property to get his way. And it was working. He had me watching every face that walked through the door, checking behind my car at night, jumping when the phone rang. I asked if they'd consider banning him from the store. The legal rep said, "We can if he returns. But until he shows up again, we can't enforce anything." So basically, he had to show up and do something again before they take it seriously. But he already had something planned. A week later, he came back, and not alone. It was a Wednesday morning when he walked back in. I wasn't at the service desk that day. I'd been moved to stock electronics, maybe to keep me out of sight. But Melissa texted me from the register. "He's here. Brought a guy with him. They're both at the front." My stomach sank. I ducked behind the TV wall and peeked through a gap between two display boxes. It was him, same sour face, same puffed up chest. But next to him stood a younger man, mid-30s maybe, wearing a suit that looked expensive and fake at the same time. Clean-shaven, tight jaw, the kind of guy who smiled with no warmth behind it. He was carrying a leather briefcase. Melissa texted again. He says his friend is a lawyer. Wants to talk to the manager and get this whole thing settled today. I felt a chill. This guy wasn't letting go. I slipped into the break room and told Tom. He sighed and headed to the front with that familiar defeated look. I stayed in the back, but I watched the cameras on the monitor above the microwave. The suited guy was talking, calm but forceful. My customer from hell stood beside him, nodding aggressively every few seconds. Tom stood there like a wet paper towel, arms crossed, eyes low. After about 10 minutes, he gestured toward the office. They all disappeared off screen. About 15 minutes later, Tom came back into the break room. He looked off. He grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge and stared at the wall for a moment. Then he looked at me. He wants a formal apology from you, Tom said quietly. In writing. I blinked. He what? Tom shook his head slowly. The guy with him is a real lawyer. They're threatening to file a harassment claim if you don't. Says it's defamation of character and that you used excessive force when refusing service. They said what happened caused emotional distress and reputational damage. He threw cans on the floor, Tom. On camera. They don't care, he said. They say the way you talked to him was targeted and hostile. I was shaking. And you're even considering this? Tom didn't answer right away. Corporate legal said we can't take a stance yet. But they don't want a lawsuit. You might be asked to take administrative leave while they look into it. So now I was being forced out. I stood up, heart pounding. They're weaponizing our own system, Tom. You know this is revenge. You saw it. They just want to make me crawl. Tom ran a hand over his face. You're not wrong. But the company's first concern is always going to be avoiding a lawsuit. I don't make the rules. I sat back down, numb. So what now? Take the rest of the day. HR's gonna call you tonight. I walked out of that store with my badge in my pocket and a fire building in my chest. I wasn't going to apologize. Not when I was the one who stood up while everyone else backed down. But this guy had more than a temper now. He had someone willing to twist facts into legal threats. And it wasn't over. That night I checked my email. Nothing from HR yet, but something else caught my eye. A notification from Facebook. Name redacted, tagged you in a comment. My profile was private. Barely active. But I clicked. It was a post from a local Houston community group. A blurry screenshot from the store's security footage, the moment I pointed toward the customer after he knocked over the cans. The caption said, "This employee thinks she can disrespect loyal customers and get away with it. Share until she's held accountable." The post had over 300 shares already. Hundreds of comments. Most were supportive, people calling out the behavior of the customer and defending retail workers. But some weren't. What's her full name? She's rude, I've seen her before. I heard she screamed at a customer. Typical. I didn't scream. I didn't even raise my voice. But none of that mattered now. He was trying to smear me outside of the store. Beyond the cameras. Beyond HR. And I realized then, this man wasn't just mad about a coupon. He wanted to break me down piece by piece, until I had no choice but to beg him to stop. He wanted power, and no one was stopping him. So I started collecting. Every message. Every post. Every time someone mentioned me by name. Every minute of footage. Every interaction I had with store management. Every ignored warning. If he was going to keep pushing, he was about to find out that I pushed back harder. And I wasn't going to do it alone. I spent the next 2 days putting everything together. Screenshots. Videos. Call logs. Every text from coworkers who saw him screaming. a copy of the police report about my car. I even found old footage of him yelling at other employees months before, just no one had ever reported it officially. They were too afraid, or just didn't think it mattered. Now it did. I met with a lawyer. A real one. She looked over my file and didn't even blink. This is retaliation. And if the company doesn't stand behind you, they're opening themselves up to a much bigger problem. She helped me write my own formal complaint. Not just to corporate, but to HR's legal department, the labor board, and even the local news station. I sent everything. I included a full timeline, with videos, screenshots, and statements. That same day, corporate HR finally called. Not to support me, but to place me on unpaid leave while they completed their internal investigation. The moment they said it, something snapped in me. I went public. I posted my own video. I spoke calmly. I told my story. I included clips. I showed the moment the customer screamed, knocked over cans, pointed in my face. I blurred his image. I was careful. But I told the truth. That post went viral. Within 24 hours, I had over 600,000 views. Thousands of comments. Hundreds from other retail workers who had gone through the same thing. News outlets picked it up. Suddenly the man wasn't just the guy yelling about a coupon, he was a symbol of everything wrong with how customers treat people in retail. Then something wild happened. Other people started posting their own experiences with him. He wasn't just rude. He'd been banned from a grocery store 2 blocks over. A gas station clerk recognized him too. Even his former neighbor posted, saying he used to threaten the HOA over trash collection. Within 48 hours, the store was swamped with bad press. Not just for how he behaved, but for how management treated me. They were accused of enabling abuse, punishing employees for following rules, and choosing silence over safety. Corporate flipped. They issued a public apology. They reinstated me immediately, with back pay. They claimed the leave was a misunderstanding. They offered me a new role in a safer department. And they permanently banned the customer from all store locations. The fake lawyer? Turned out to be a distant cousin of his. Not licensed to practice. He was fined and reported. But I didn't take the offer. I quit. On my last day, I walked out with my head high. And I made sure to leave a signed letter behind, addressed to corporate, and posted on the employee bulletin board. I wrote how I hoped my situation would teach them something about loyalty, not to customers who yell, but to workers who stand up when no one else will. A week later, I heard Tom got transferred. He didn't fight for me when it mattered. Melissa told me he cried in his car the day my video hit the news. He should have cried sooner. As for me, I took a new job. Office work. Quiet. No coupons, no screaming. Just a desk, a computer, and respect. The customer tried to sue me for defamation. It was dismissed in less than 10 minutes. The judge called it a sad attempt to spin bad behavior into victimhood. He's not online anymore. But my video? It's still up. Still gets views. And every time someone shares it, I remember that you can't always stop people from trying to hurt you, but you can decide how the story ends. And I made sure this one ended with fire.